Hello, good morning, and many thanks indeed for joining us on AM Live. It is the 24th of June, 2019, and I'm glad that, of course, you can join us on This Is a Point today, of course, where we shall be looking at the politics of the week that has been. A lot has been happening on that particular front, and we'll be discussing that with a panelist who will be will be here much late in the course of the program. And we're eagerly waiting for them so that we can engage you as well. Of course, the party politics will have to be on the table, and also a very ticklish issue about the compensation of SGR, which also is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. So you can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle, AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20686 our SMS portal. But let's get down to business by looking at the dailies. We begin with the Daily Nation, and this is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation today. 3 billion shillings bill for no work on SGR. That is what we have as a splash today. 3 billion shillings bill for no work on SGR line. Idle capacity, that is what is the sub-headline there. That we have land compensation woes that stalled completion of the standard gauge railways Nairobi-Naivasha stretch. Could have also the cost, the taxpayers 21 billion shillings. That will cost the taxpayer 21 million shillings a day in payment of idle workers and machines. That story also is tucked away on page 4 of the Daily Nation. On top there, the flagger reads, Transport CS says payment clause applies when deadline lapses. And you have a graphic presentation here of how this pans out. An SGR cargo train at Nairobi terminus on April 27th. This is the picture here, and you can see 2.8 billion shillings amount accrued in idle capacity by the Chinese contractor, according to letter by the CEO of the National Lands Commission. Also 1.2 billion shillings. That is the amount that phase 2A was to cost per kilometer of the line, which snakes through Nairobi, Kiambu, Kajiado, Narok, and Nakuru. Also, the TASO. Landowners in Kajiado had claimed 4.2 billion shillings before the EACC froze payment last year to probe the inflation of the value of some parcels by NLC and Kenya Railways. This is a story that you want to follow inside the Daily Nation today, and it's all tucked away on page 4. Also, why Kenya cannot feed its millions. Rising food prices are shining the spotlight on the reality that Kenya is far from fulfilling the promise in the Constitution that every person has a right to be free from hunger. While the current crisis is being blamed on the delayed and below average long rains, the problem of food insecurity has persisted, with the lack of strategic planning and inaction playing as big a role as climate change and over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture. That is a story that you want to follow on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Also, the figures are given here. Hungry and wasting away. 12 million number of hungry, undernourished Kenyans. 300,000 children younger than 5 years are affected by wasting, that is low rate of height. Also, double increased risk of death for a pregnant woman with anemia compared to a healthy expectant mother. It may also put a pregnant woman and her baby at risk of premature delivery and low birth weight. And this is Miss Nalotwesha Naikuni of Ongata Nado in Narok East Sub-County, quenching her thirst during the distribution of relief food in the area earlier this year. This story is all tucked away on page 12 of the Daily Nation today. Still on the front page of the Daily Nation today, it's do or die for Harambee Stars in Cairo. And of course, the news is that they lost to Algeria 2-0. This story is tucked away on page 49, 50 and 51. Facing Senegal and Tanzania after last night's clash with Algeria, Kenya dares to dream. Also, Ethiopia on the edge after army chief is killed. Coup attempt piles more challenges on Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's reform agenda. And this story continues on page 29 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on and to see what we have on the front page of the Standard. Uhuru allies back Tuju on Ruto threats. That is what we have on the front page of the Standard today. Jubilee Wars. Leaders allied to President defend Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju, asking his critics, majority who are allied to DP William Ruto, to wait for Jubilee elections to elect those they want. Leaders allied to President defend Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju are asking his critics, majority who are allied to DP William Ruto, to wait for Jubilee elections to elect those they want. And this story continues on page 6 of the Standard today. We have bites here from some of the Jubilee MPs and, of course, former chair, vice chair. This is David Murada saying, quote unquote, they should leave him alone. I don't think he said anything wrong. They should be happy. Tuju reminded them it's time to heal the country. Also, we have Igembe North MP Mauka Maora saying, quote unquote, those who have put up the Tuju name are deliberately doing it now to water down the president's messages. Also, we have Cherengani MP Joshua Kutuni saying this could be intentional to eliminate people closer to the president from the party and will not allow it. We will not allow it. Also, we have this bite from Raphael Tuju saying, I would welcome the opportunity to speak substance and truth on a live TV interview and not just give a soundbite in response to party members who have talked in rallies. This is how the Standard looks this morning. Also, still on the front page of the Standard, Slain Kanu man beat URP in tough. That is Dayland Murder County mourns former Kapiego Ward Rep Benson Kiptire, who rose against the strong United Republican Party storm to clinch the seat in 2013 general election on a Kanu ticket. This story is tucked away on page 11 of the Standard this morning. Also, MPs want leaders treated at home. MPs want leaders treated at home. There is a proposal here. Kiambu Women Rep Gathoni Omushomba wants elected leaders and state officials blocked from traveling abroad for treatment so that they can do more to improve local health facilities. Kiambu Women Rep, that is Woman Rep Gathoni Omushomba wants elected leaders and state officials blocked from traveling abroad for treatment so that they can do more to improve local health care or health facilities here in the country. You can follow the story on page 5 of the Standard this morning. A quick look now at what we have on the front page of the Star. And this is what Murada is saying. Uhuru will not hand power to a thief. Uhuru will not hand over power to a thief. That is what we have as a splash. This is a warning. You cannot be elected, then say you will work after next polls. You cannot be elected, then say you will work after next polls. This is what we have here. You hear some publicly saying that war on corruption will not hinder him from becoming the next president. You hear some publicly saying that war on corruption will not hinder him from becoming the next president. So you can read all these details on page 6 also of the Star this morning. See a related picture here. And he is holding court with Wiper boss Kalonzo Musyoka during the funds drive for PCA Ngewa, I should say, church on Githunguri. The story is on page 6 of the Star. Also still on the front page of the Star, Ruto criticizes MPs over plans to curb church harambees. Deputy President William Ruto yesterday attacked MPs who have come up with a bill that makes it hard for churches to conduct harambees. He spoke in Vihiga County, and this story continues on page 2. Also, we have KRA revenue target halt to widen as financial year closes. This is another story I do want to follow. Also on page 15 of the Star, the taxman is likely to miss revenue collection targets by a wider margin this year, further jeopardizing the government's fiscal plan. Actual revenues shows KRA got 1.2 trillion shillings. And as I said, this story, you can follow it on page 15 of the Star this morning. SGR Construction Kajiado residents given time to exhume bodies of loved ones. Residents of Nkoroi in Kajiado have been asked to exhume bodies of their loved ones before construction work starts on the new standard gauge railway in the area. This story continues on page 30 of the Star this morning. And also we shall be also touching on this with the panelists also much later in the course of the program this morning. Allow me to show you what we have on the front page of the Business Daily before I also show you the hard copy of the People Daily today. This is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Foreigners retain dividend power at top 20 NSE firms. That is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Foreigners retain dividend power at top 20 NSE firms. Payout to international investors rises by 22.1%, even as the proportion of the shareholding falls. The share, it says here, of dividends earned by foreign investors holding stakes in the 20 biggest NSE firms increased by 22.1% last year, despite a sharp drop in the proportion for the foreigners' shareholding of Kenyan companies. An analysis of stock market data has shown this, and this also continues on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Ethiopia coup bid. It says here that Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed can be seen here addressing the public on television yesterday of the country's army chief and the president of the key Amhara region were shot dead during an attempt to overthrow the regional government in northern Ethiopia. Press Secretary Bilene Seiwum and the spokesperson of the MP, that is Negusu Tilaon, said the coup attempt was led by a regional security chief. And this is a picture courtesy of the AFP on the front page of the Business Daily as well. Also still on the front page of the Business Daily, 1.16 billion shillings payment to Turkana wind power averts sovereign default crisis. A last-minute amendment to the supplementary budget averted a sovereign debt default crisis by allowing the Treasury to pay Lake Turkana wind power a 1.16 billion shillings penalty. It has emerged Treasury Secretary Henry Rotich and Parliament's Budget Committee Chairman Kimani Ichung'wah have both confirmed to the Business Daily that MPs allowed release of the cash to avoid plunging Kenya into a cross-default situation with external financiers. And this story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Still on the front page of the Business Daily, we have also motorists set to cruise at 130 kilometers per hour in new Jomobile. A private motorist could soon cruise at a top speed of 130 kilometers per hour on the country's major highways if MPs approve a bill tabled in Parliament by Kiambu lawmaker Jude Njomo. The new speed limit will apply to roads with dual carriage ways and those classified as Class A and B in the Kenya Roads Act 2007. Now, the current allowable top speed limit on Kenyan roads is 110 kilometers per hour on motorways and on thicker superhighway, while the lowest is 30 kilometers per hour near schools and road construction sites. Public service vehicles, including buses, minibuses, coaches, school vans, motorcycles and light commercial vehicles that are not a taxi or privately hired vehicle, are required to have a built-in speed governors that limit their top speed to 8 kilometers per hour. So you can follow this story also on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Let's look on the ticker where we have a sidebar there. On the ticker, Treasury scraps home levy relief for top earners. The Treasury is seeking to scrap a guideline that handed immunity to high-income earners in the house levy, limiting the monthly relief to 15% of the actual contribution. Follow the story on page 5 of the Business Daily. Today's digit is 70%, and this is a percentage of all digital loans borrowed that falls between 500 and 7,000 shillings. This story continues on page 13 of the Business Daily this morning. Also, State backs plans to grow yellow maize. The state will support farmers to grow yellow maize as it pushes to realize food security under the Big Four agenda. This story continues on page 19 of the Business Daily this morning. Allow me to show you also the hard copy of the People Daily today. Hard queries on Kinoti Haji graft war. And this is all about delivery gap. It says, though or thought they have invested a lot of energy in arresting hurling high-profile suspects to court, there are no tangible convictions so far. This is what we have on the front page of the People Daily today. Hard queries on Kinoti Haji graft war. Right, so is it all about style and no substance? This is the question that is being put here on the front page of the People Daily today. Though they have invested a lot of energy in arresting hurling high-profile suspects to court, there are no tangible convictions so far. This story continues on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily today. Also, why unrest in Ethiopia poses threat to Kenya. Killing of Army Chief Regional Administrator over the weekend is an escalation of inter-ethnic violence which has dogged Premier Abiy. And you have this story continuing also on page 13 of People Daily today. Also, the story of, as I've mentioned, that is a splash on the front page of the People Daily is tacked on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily this morning. Allow me to show you also what we have on the front page of East African this week. My copy of the Citizen and also Mwananchi in Tanzania and the Daily Monitor seem to be corrupted this morning. We shall look into that, but nonetheless we can see also what the region is holding for us this week. And this is what is on the front page of the East African this week. Mfumu Keko and staff lost money so punish them. Mfumu Keko and staff lost money, so punish them. East African Legislative Assembly told EAC Secretariat cannot account for 1,000 assets plus over $81 million in cash. This is an audit query there, and it's all about the East African Legislative Assembly. So you can follow the story, the full report you have on page 4 and 5 of the East African this week. Also, should DRC be fast-tracked into EAC? That is another abiding question there. There are precedents with Burundi and South Sudan with bad outcomes. The East African partner states are excited and ready to fast-track the application of the Democratic Republic of Congo as the 7th member, but questions abound. DRC, with a population of 81 million, is a welcome addition to the community, since it means an expanded market and resource base that will give the bloc political and economic muscle. But does it meet the membership criteria? That is the question. And you can follow all the details on page 8 and 9 of the East African this week. Also still on the front page of the East African, there are 45 million people facing drought in Africa. Yes, so far, only 45 million US dollars has been pledged for relief. This is what the outlook is carrying for us also this week. And you can follow the story on page 21 of the East African. Airtel to list on LSCE in June IPO at 1 to 1.5 US dollars. Telco is looking to raise gross proceeds of 750 million US dollars. You can follow that story also on page 33, the business segment inside the East African this week. Also, Kagame grumbles government wants out of Kimerwa or Simerwa. Its cement output is too small and too expensive. Give it to SA. Follow the story on page 41 of the East African this week. Also, allow me to show you what we have on the front page of... Did I show you what we have on the front page of the New Times in Rwanda? This is how it looks today. Why Rwanda was chosen to champion global biodiversity. Rwanda is one of the few countries in the world that have been approached by Campaign for Nature, a global initiative working to raise awareness of threats facing natural resources to serve as a champion or model nation on biodiversity protection. The champion, or the campaign, which was launched in 2018, among other goals, seeks to call on countries to adopt best practices in protection of natural resources with a target of protecting 30% of global natural resources by 2030. The campaign hopes Rwanda could inspire other nations through sharing its experience. You can follow the story on page 8 of the New Times today. Drones offering high-tech help to smallholder farmers is another story there. This is a standalone picture, but the story is on page 4. And you can see Musanze farmers, local officials and partners observing drones before takeoff on a mission to collect data from fields and to spray liquid pesticides on farms last week. Towards the end of last year, that is Chari's Unmanned Aerial Solution, a company that was started by young Rwandan nationals, conducted an exercise to demonstrate the potential of drones in driving agriculture output in Gataraga sector in Musanze district, that is in Rwanda. That you can follow it on page 4 of the New Times in Rwanda today. 50,000 families to benefit from 80 million drought control scheme is another story that you want to follow on page 18 of the New Times this morning. Let's see what we have on the front page of Taifa Leo. I didn't show you that, but this is how it looks today. Polisi, koti wanavyoeneza ufisadi, uhalifu is the splash. Utekelezaji sheria wa ubaguzi wawapa wahalifu jasiri wa kuendeleza maovu yao licha ya madhara kwa taifa. That is what the flag reads on top there of Taifa Leo, and that's how it looks today. Also, mwanafunzi wa kike aua mwenzake wakipigania mvulana is another story on page 2 of Taifa Leo this morning. And on the that is the sports segment, I should say. Kocha wa Man U asema hamtaki Pogba. You can follow the story on page 11 and 16 of Taifa Leo this morning. There's a standalone picture here, and it says mashambani kazi za sulubu kwa wanawake, akina mama na wasichana wabeba kuni katika eneo la Maungu, kaunti ya Taita Taveta. Wikendi huwa wanasafiri masaa marefu kutafuta kuni ambazo ni tegemeo kubwa katika maeneo ya mashambani nchini kwa upishi. That is a standalone picture there. Also, mkuu wa jeshi la Ethiopia wawa. That is on page 7. And Mudavadi na Oparanya wapuuzwa. You can follow the story on page 3 of Taifa Leo this morning. Let me show you also from the archives what we do have here. And this is a picture from our archives. This is in 1968. And I have with me here in studio Professor Haman Manyora, who may actually try and figure out who that person is. And actually the two people on this particular picture, who are they? He can tell us if he is aware of them.
There's something age does to a man. It looks quite familiar, but I can't. Honestly, there are people I know. One looks like Ngugi wa Thiong'o. No.
Who? He looks like Ngugi wa Thiong'o?
He's not. And this other one is like... Huh? But there are people I know, honestly.
No. Actually, you're right.
I can't put a face.
You can't put a face.
I can't put a name on the face, but I know the face.
Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you got it.
Oh, that's Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
This is Ngugi wa Thiong'o on, I don't know which side you are. This is on your right side.
Yeah, the other
yes.
side. And
on
then
the right
is that like a Kara or I don't know.
Yes. You got it actually.
Oh,
yeah, perfect. And this is when he was appointed as one of the editors of Zuku, the magazine by Oxford Press.
Yes.
Yeah, this is in 1968.
Yeah. Age can change things, eh? Enjoy your youth, Debarl.
I enjoy my youth, eh?
Yeah.
But you see, yeah, you got it.
I got it, eh?
You got it, eh?
Kioni wouldn't get it, of course.
Kioni can't. No, we've not given him a clue yet. He's actually taking his seat right now, so he's not really marked. Won't ask him.
Yes. But that's quite a while back, you know.
This was 1968.
Yeah, quite a while back. I was in primary school. That means it's quite a while back.
So when he started, fantastic. Good to know that at least you can pick out some of these people, even when they were in the prime of the youth. That is Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and the editor of Oxford Press then. That was in 1968. But this is how the Daily Nation looked today, or it looks today. 3 billion shillings bill for no work on SGR line. That is Kenya for us. Infrastructure. Transport CSA's payment clause applies when deadline lapses. We shall also be looking at and interrogating this with the panelists this morning. But let's get to the politics of the week that has been, where former Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson and President Uhuru Kenyatta's close ally David Mrathe now says the president will be extremely careful about who he will hand over power to. According to Mrathe, most leaders have played a part in the plunder of the country's resources and did not deserve to be in leadership. On his part, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka proposes a judicial commission to try corruption cases, saying the cases were taking too long in court.
President Uhuru Kenyatta hata wachia hii nchi waizi.
Maybe to deal with corruption, we need a special commission of inquiry.
All right, and of course also that is what is on the front page of The Star this morning. You can follow the story. This is how they've put it. Sometimes they say that media, we try and sensationalize issues, but you can see the splash on the front page of The Star. Let me try and just pick it up quickly for you. The Star, this is how it looks. Murathe, Uhuru will not hand power to a thief. That is what the Star is saying today. You cannot be elected, then say you will work after next polls. Right, you hear some publicly saying that war on corruption will not hinder him from becoming the next president. Right. Also, could Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i be positioning himself to run for the country's presidency? Or is he just creating a support base that will eventually give him bargaining power as his transitions into politics? These are some of the questions that have emerged after about 10 MPs from the region endorsed him for the country's top job.
It is now becoming a familiar tune at almost all meetings in Abagusi land, where politicians are the chief guests. The politicians from the region are, however, dancing to a new tune, calling its people to coalesce around one of their own. It is an initiative put together and driven by MPs from the region, led by Kitutu Chache MP Richard Onyonka, who recently jumped ship from the DP Ruto bandwagon. Their strategy is to sell the Matiang'i candidacy and get the people on board the idea.
Oikire na intu naba gusi mwaibungo kwana bono tigankwane na antu twaisanire na intu tutagetobo gambi bwa Kenya.
Tuko karibu tuende na CS mpaka tuchukue kiti ya uraisi. Mko tayari Nyamira?
Oria abaheshimiwa bonse n'abarayi bonse kuruga gusi tobwatyo mheshimiwa Matiang'i unago totebia egarego kimotuga abo na kitu tukanyore kero kende kende mo waje tunyore keria kende kabisa.
Hiyo safari umeanza. Enyewe hata sisi tumekuja kusikia ya kwamba there are whispers and good whispers. These whispers tunataka kusema Mungu atusaidie tuende kabisa.
Matiang'i was put at the heart of President Kenyatta's executive following the radical reorganization of his administration and the establishment of a new hierarchy of authority. His frequent visits to the South Nyanza counties of Kisii and Nyamira have also endeared him to the public, as he often carries the president's transformational message and bags of goodies. There are those, however, who see his numerous trips to the region as a way of galvanizing support from his backyard ahead of the 2022 elections.
Siba minto onye tutagete go succeed ebinto to korabia magendero seitu gaiga tobugata namo 20p na ende to sikabara yaba na ende to basabere.
Currently, Matiang'i enjoys the support of a number of MPs from his backyard, but not everyone is on board. South Mogirango MP Silvana Susoro has declared unwavering support for Deputy President William Ruto. Matiang'i's bulldozing and almost brazen demeanor has earned him praise and criticism in equal measure. He has often feuded with the Deputy President as tough wars intensify. Conservative figures place the Kisii community at about 2 million people. Kennedy Murevi, NTV.
Of course, we will be remiss if we don't hear from some of our panelists on this as well. And the Jubilee Party politics this morning. We shall be also turning our focus on the composition of SGR and what is on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning as well, much later in the course of the program. But let's just hear and introduce also our panelists if you're joining us this morning. We have with us Herman Manyora, who is a lecturer at the University of Nairobi and also a resident of our resident analyst here on NTV. We do have with us Okongo Mogini, who is a senator for Nyamira. We have also Samuel Pogisu, who is a senator for West Pokot, and Jeremiah Kioni, who is a member of parliament for Ndaragwa. Eagerly waiting also to be joined by Alice Ome much later in the course of the program. But let's just begin with you, Herman, on this particular front. But let's begin with Okongo Mogini, because he was there, yes. It seems that Okongo Mogini also is endorsing Matiang'i, Dr. Matiang'i, as a next kingpin or the leader of the Abagusi. What was that occasion all about?
Yes, morning, Debarl. I think first we should understand that that was a function to raise funds for Gesiaga High School. Actually, that was in my village. That's where I come from. Mm-hmm. And it was not a meeting to endorse Matiang'i's candidature. But I think what the leadership that was present was saying was acknowledging the good track record of Dr. Matiang'i, and they were also trying to echo the president is called that this country needs to be united. We need to reduce negative ethnic-based politics. And in response, Dr. Matiang'i was urging the Kisii people to rally behind the leaders that they have chosen so that they can push forward the president's agenda. I did not hear at any one minute, any one given time, Dr. Matiang'i declaring his candidature for presidency. Having said that, though, I think if this was a functioning, democracy, like what I'm seeing in the U.S., where
it's not really declaring the candidature for presidency, but being acknowledged as a community, now he is actually rising as a creme de la creme
which is a good thing. And I think you didn't listen to the whole clip of Onyonka. I think Onyonka was trying to tell the people that let's have a break from the past, where we choose people who will not come on board with some tainted record on corruption. And I think if we were to be sincere to ourselves, if this country wants to be transformed, we should look at the leadership that we currently have and say, who is untainted, who can push forward the agenda that we are trying to rally Kenyans behind, which is fighting corruption, uniting this country, and stopping these negative politics to push this country forward. And I don't think there's nothing wrong. If you go back to where you come from and your people acknowledge the good job you have done, I don't think there's anything wrong in that Debarl. And I think the Onyonkas and the other leaders were saying, look, if the right time comes and you want to seek for an higher seat, we assure you that we as a community will be rallying behind you, we'll support you. I think that's proper. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't hear Dr. Matiang'i declare that I'm going to run for presidency. But yes, I think he's done a good job. I'm sure even Manyora here will acknowledge that he's one of the best performing ministers that we have under the Uhuru regime. He has left a very good track record. He has proved that he's a performer. Yeah.
All right, but of course, from other quarters, we have, innuendos, so to speak. And of course, we don't ride on innuendos, but sometimes this is a bellwether of where we're going as a country as well. That in the next political formation, that we'll have maybe position of a prime minister, and he's touted, or he will be tapped as one of the person who will actually take that particular position of a prime minister. I don't know if you're privy to this. Yeah.
Debarl, nobody owns the seat of prime minister. I mean, if we are expanding the executive, if we want to create a position of prime minister, and if the Kenyan people say that Matiang'i fits the bill, why not? I mean, the 42 tribes we have in this country, each one of us should have a right to vie for the top seat to become a prime minister or anything. We shouldn't say that that's a preserve of given communities. I think what we should be asking is Matiang'i capable of holding that position? Has he proved himself? Can he bring some leadership that's a bit different from what we have seen in the past? If it's yes, and if the Kenyan people say they are amending the constitution to create the position of prime minister, and he's offered that position, why not go for it? Yeah.
Why not go for it? With the current, of course, shake-up in the cabinet, the reshuffle that we just had, and of course him being touted to be a super cabinet secretary as well. Is that also positioning Kenyans for the likelihood of what we're talking about, him being the next prime minister? And of course, those formations, we have them, people talking, just with undercurrents.
Debarl, is something about power. Power, usually you have in some way, at least to go for it. It rarely moves towards people. So Matiang'i has positioned himself and he has found himself at the center of power. That you must give it to him. And then the reason is he's far better than the rest of his colleagues. Now, whether that means he's good is another story. Real, because when you compare Matiang'i with his colleagues, you can just see Monica Juma there and Magoha there, maybe, and that's it. There's nobody else. That tells a lot about the kind of leadership we have. So because he's quite visible, a lot of stories are beginning to emerge. I am also beginning to get convinced. I rarely get it wrong, although some people think I do. I am also beginning to get convinced Matiang'i will go somewhere in this country. I am also looking at what the president said, that he will surprise us. Supposing that surprises Matiang'i. You know, again, Matiang'i has worked his way up in such a way, he resonates with the people. People see him as a person who can do something. You know, remember the days of when he was in ICT, the day he wrestled with digital changes, a bit of acting minister in lands and, you know, that kind of stuff. But more particular in the Ministry of Education with the exams, you know, and even with the interior, the kind of things he's been able to do. So it's highly visible. And in a country where you can rarely get such a kind of people, you know, when Michuki was around, he looked like he was the only minister in government. So Matiang'i is that kind of person, highly visible. And in a transition stage like we are in today, eyes will look at him. Ears will be open because of his visibility. And give it to him, he has earned it. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next government, whichever way it comes, I mean in terms of whether we change our constitution or not, Matiang'i will feature much more prominently than he is featuring now.
Right, but of course some of the leaders there from the Gusii land, they think Matiang'i is a squeaky clean person.
If you
from your own assessment, do you think he's actually squeaky? Yes.
He's the most prominent son of Abba Gusii. Definitely will support him. Even those who don't like him will find themselves supporting him. If you don't, you'll be the only stranger there. Omogen here may not like him, but because if he said otherwise, he may not step in Kisii town.
But from your own assessment, do you think he's squeaky clean?
Pardon?
Do you think he's squeaky clean as far as issues to do with corruption is concerned, pilfering from the government is concerned?
I don't know about Matiang'i in terms of that line. What I know that in this country, everybody has something on him. So if we go that route, then we will not even get a leader. We should go and borrow one from the United States. We can ask Obama on his retirement to come and rule this country. Because we are all, none of us is clean.
So no one is
the environment is so polluted in this country. It is not possible for a person to stand up and say, like Raila says, maybe he's the only one, at the mimi ni nyeupe kama pamba. It is not possible. That is all over. Smoke is all over.
Jeremiah Kioni is nyeupe kama pamba. Let's just hear from Jeremiah Kioni this morning. Yeah? Antu nyeupe kama pamba.
Good morning, Debarl.
Morning to you.
Do you want us to talk about Pamba or Matiang'i?
Matiang'i is Pamba. So.
And I still think the Matiang'i thing is best discussed by Mugeni and Onyonka, because you haven't quite understood what it is from. For those of us who come from a distance from Kisii, we need, you know, political power is more than just serving in a ministry in 2 terms. And it is different from, there's a huge difference between being appointed and being elected. The difference comes when you go looking for votes yourself, because you have to convince people who are voting why you want the vote. It is not just because you performed in one place or another. But he's performing, agreed. And certainly, where he goes next has a lot to do with who is next as the president of this republic. I don't like banking on positions that have not been created. Because when you now start cutting a position to size so that it fits a specific person, you end up with unnecessary pressure to Kenyans. Create this position because this person must get this position or perish. But I think it is important. I don't agree that there are people who have not been tainted with corruption in the country. They are there, and many. It is possible to get people who you cannot have anything against, and that may surprise many, but I believe there is. And we should encourage others, and especially the young people in schools, that it is possible to rise to a position of authority like that position of Matiang'i without having gone through corruption, without having compromised yourself. And I think that is where the hope for this country is.
All right, let's hear from Senator Pogisio. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and morning to our viewers today. The whole thing about Mheshimiwa Matiang'i, Matiang'i is the one who succeeded me in the Ministry of Information. Yes. When I left, he has, you give it to him. Give it to him. He has cut an image for himself, an image that shows a toughness and an anti-corruption image, and also that he has been able to speak when in a subdued cabinet, which doesn't speak. You know, people you don't even know. Many people will not even know what the other cabinet ministers are saying because they don't speak. It's a different kind of cabinet. And in that kind of cabinet, Matiang'i is the only one you can see who is engaging, engaging politicians, engaging everybody. And that has given him an image of a tough guy who can actually sort out things. Now, I'm not so sure that is enough for the Kisii people to declare that he is good for president. But by the time you move from a non-politician who has moved, directly as a professional from the university straight to cabinet, and then from cabinet, he's moved so many times to handle tough situations and assignments within cabinet. You then know that he has managed to convince the powers that is a guy who can do the job. So I think the other thing which we must note is that a person in the position of the Secretary for Interior, Cabinet Secretary for Interior, is a very, very senior position in any cabinet. It's a very responsible, has a lot of resources and so on, and very good for politicians. In fact, if they come from your neighborhood, it's very good because he has the powers to do things for you. He can move things within your county. And I think maybe that's why he quickly rises to the top of the echelons, the top echelon of the leadership of Kisii automatically, and finds himself there. So who else would the Kisiis look up to? I mean, in a situation like this. So he obviously has risen to a rank where you cannot ignore him, and not only in Kisii, and if you ask other people, they think he's tough, is the one who can handle situations. So I believe that is a bright future in politics if he wants to join politics, but also in the public service if he wants to remain where he is.
All right. All right, let's move on also to the Jubilee Party politics as well. And of course, we had this particular pronouncement, or maybe some of the comments that were given during a church fundraising service by Murathe and also Kalonzo Musyoka. And we'll show you also what is on the front page of the Star as well. Just take a listen to this particular bite.
President Uhuru Kenyatta hata wachia hii nchi waizi.
Maybe to deal with corruption, we need a special commission of inquiry.
So do you think we need a special commission of an inquiry on this, all right, when it comes to fighting corruption? Also, if you take a look at what is on the front page of the People Daily today, hard queries on Kinoti, Haji Graft is what we do have there as the splash today. If you may just take a look at that, hard queries on Kinoti, Haji Graft is what we have. Had questions on Kinoti, Haji Graft war. They're saying this is a delivery gap. Though they have invested a lot of energy in arresting, hurling high-profile suspects to court, there are no tangible convictions so far. The story also continues on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily this morning. But let's just begin from there. And this is also the splash on the front page of the Star today. This is what Murathe was saying, that President Uhuru will not hand over power to a thief. I think he was misquoted there because he said,
Why is?
By thieves, but now this is to a thief. Haman Manyora.
You know, in reporting, you have to report something that catches the eye, something that then sells the paper. So if you say thieves, it's too generic, it's too general. So you focus on one. You try to say that Murathe was saying Uhuru will not hand power over to a thief, particularly because we know Murathe's background. He will not hand over to Ruto. You see that kind of stuff. I wouldn't support that kind of those kind of views from a leader of that caliber, especially if you are saying that you will not hand over power to somebody, and specifically saying he's a thief. I think that's not the way to speak. There are better ways of because as we stand today, as we are here in this studio, William Samoei Ruto is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. It has something to do with our image as people. He's part of the presidency. So such a references to him really wouldn't be coming from somebody like Murathe. It wouldn't be good. Because that's why this paper say to a thief. because they know he meant so and so, which is really wrong. Eh? But as a person, he has his right to talk about his preferences, to express his fears of what would happen if Ruto became president. That is perfectly in order. He has worked with them. He knows Ruto more than we do. Okay? He's been so close to power. He still is, I suspect. And therefore, it is good that he warns us that you people listen. I have worked with this guy, and I know he can't make a president. So it's good. It's good for the public. Let's hear different views. The only thing I'm flagging out is the kind of language you use in reference to somebody as high as the deputy president of a country. Yeah.
Or on what about the suggestion to have a judicial commission, you know, to interrogate issues to do with corruption? Are we...
You see, Debarl, countries that do not condone corruption, countries that do something about theft of public property or corruption, don't have as many laws as ours. They don't have institutions such as EACC. They don't have institutions like somebody suggesting we create a commission. That is evidence of a country that does not want to fight corruption. We have enough laws in this country. And in any case, I've said many times, including on this bench here, Debarl,
yes,
what we have is not corruption. What we have is raw theft. So when you are dealing with thieves, let the police arrest the thieves. Let the prosecutor prosecute the thieves. Let the judiciary send these people to committee. Let them begin eating maharage. What we need is to flog the judiciary. The missing link is the judiciary. Let's flog the judiciary. Because an active bench, I don't believe the fact that if somebody doesn't investigate a case well,
yes,
I'm not a lawyer, Morgan is here, then the bench has nothing to do. No. The court can push the prosecution to come up with sensible things in court through interrogating prosecutors, you know, and lawyers. If you listen at, for example, if you are following the ICC case,
yes,
you are able to see an active bench, the judges interrogating what a lawyer is saying. So that at the end of the day, or a witness, at the end of the day, we cannot say that because the prosecution is compromised, they come with very weak cases. Of course, we need to push the prosecution, Haji's office. We need to put DCI so that they don't do public relations, PR, by pushing staff to media to publish instead of coming up with credible evidence against.
So you don't think that the DCI and the DPP so far, this is all about style and no substance?
They have not shown style and no substance. They are trying to make a lot of noise, but there's no action.
Conviction yet.
And we want the president to step in. Honestly, only the president can step in by ensuring that there is tangible action.
So for 2 years, they've been giving us high drama, but we've not seen anyone convicted so far. Okongo Mogeni, do we need a judicial commission so far, as suggestion is coming? We have so many legislations so far as fighting corruption is concerned in this country, but will that be the prime solution?
Yeah, I think Debarl, I want to agree fully with Manyora that other than the enabling pieces of legislation that are in place, our bodies that are tasked with fighting corruption are highly funded. In fact, if you go to countries like South Africa, Botswana, the bodies that fight corruption is a department within the police, the larger police. But in this country, you have DCI, which is anchored in the Constitution, tasked with fighting corruption. Then you have EACC. And I think what you don't know is that officers working in EACC are paid much higher salaries than other public servants as an incentive so that they can fight corruption ably. But I think we have gotten it wrong, that we have not done what other jurisdictions do. You know, if you look at the IBC chicken scandal,
yes,
the serious fraud office in the UK was tracing money and seeing the people who are bribed, the beneficiaries. And the major crime in corruption is bribery. But when you come back to this country of ours, the bodies fighting corruption play to the gallery. They want to pick any high-profile person, then you are told, this is the biggest corruption case we have ever seen in this country. Take the case of the DCJ. I mean, was Mwilu involved in any corruption case? You are being told this lady went to a bank, she borrowed money, we think she used the office to get money at low interest. I don't think that is the right focus for those offices. Debarl, what's written in the People, if you can read it, is that the collapse of several cases involving high-profile suspects has brought the credibility of investigative agencies into sharp focus. And I think unless the DCI, EACC stop playing to the gallery and start focusing on that offense called bribery, where somebody is given a tender to construct maybe, let me give an example, a road. That money is paid to that contractor. Then the money is taken out and taken back to some guys in government, maybe the CS or the principal secretary. You will never crack the corruption chain. If you start looking at, you are like having a marking scheme. You tell us there's a scandal, then you start asking for papers. Oh, did these people follow procurement laws? That's a big joke. I think the guys who benefit from this corruption laugh to the bank, all the way to the bank. And then this idea of, you arrest people even when you don't have evidence to take them to court. And you cause a lot of drama. I think about, I don't know, it's 3 years ago. We woke up on a morning and there was a lot of drama. A house of High Cabinet Secretary Waiguru had been raided, documents taken. 4 years down the line, all that we read was that EACC wrote a letter to Waiguru clearing her. How do you fight corruption in such a manner? You're making it look like it's just a joke. So I think these bodies really need to focus. In the UK, in a year you will find that they will deal with maybe 5 cases of corruption. But the moment they take you to court,
yes,
the moment you are taken to court and you take plea, I assure you there will be a conviction. But in this country, you'll be told in a year we have 180 cases. The success rate for these corruption cases is about 38%.
Which 38?
Conviction.
Forget about
62 are acquitted.
It's less.
62 are acquitted. I think we are very unserious in this country. And this idea of just allowing the war against corruption to be press conferences where you tell us we have now gone for this big fish should come to an end. Let's focus on few cases involving bribery. That is the most serious crime in corruption. You go after people, do your investigation, take even 2 years. But when you go to court, you should have a watertight case with high probability of attaining a corruption in court. I think for now we are doing dismally.
Okay, so and what about the Jubilee, of course, party politics that I wanted you to also to comment on, Murathe, and that particular comment that is on the front page of the Star? Will not hand over power to
I think for me, Debarl,
that's an onslaught on corruption, and he wanted to go and answer. These guys
no,
are contributing to the
let him finish his comment, because Haman did as well. He commented on both.
Corruption.
You
can't use prime time to just discourage the people who are doing a good job.
If you know Kioni, anytime you mention Jubilee in a manner that brings the party on the spot, you're always trying to interject some of us.
Okay.
But I think I will not blame Murathe. I think the statement Murathe is making is that as a country, let's choose somebody who can take forward this agenda of fighting corruption. And when we enacted the new constitution 2010 and put in chapter 6, I think the intention, the dream of Kenyan people was that we will vet our leaders and entrust leadership to people who are untainted. And if this can be an agenda for 2022, where we are saying we want to examine your track record and have a scorecard. Are you clean? The way you say, like cotton. Mimi ni mweupe kama pamba. I mean, if that can be agenda, when Obama was vying for presidency in the US, the American people were looking for somebody who will spur economic growth in America. When the Australians went to an election a few months ago, they were looking at somebody who will protect their environment. And that was that was the policy that was being debated on the table. If 2022, we can put corruption as the first, I think if you have a marking scheme, you say this is really the first test you need to pass, that will be a transformative election in this country. It will change things. We forget about bringing together ethnic groups, and you say we have the numbers.
Right. Thank you. Let's hear from Jeremiah Kioni.
Well, one is that I don't agree entirely with what Professor and his colleague has said that about corruption. They are just exuding negative energy this morning. I think, and it's not good to wake up with such amount of negative energy.
Why is it a negative energy? But for the last 2 years, have we seen any tangible results?
Debarl,
For your own assessment?
We are not where we were. I mean, even if you have not had convictions in a manner that the two colleagues would want, certainly this country and the world knows that we we are not condoning corruption like it used to be before. And it is good to commend the people who have given it some energy. And the fact that there are no convictions does not mean that they are not doing what they should do. I think what lawyers are doing is also to fight those who are trying to fight corruption, myself included maybe. But it's not good to just discourage our officers in that manner. I wanted to say that we as a nation agreed to even have the words corruption. I remember when you were doing this constitution in Naivasha, that occupied almost a whole day or 2 days. That the question was, do we really want to include the word corruption in our constitution? Do we want to include the agency of that fights corruption and provide for it in our constitution? And some people are saying, no, that is not right. We will be projecting ourselves in poor right. But the argument that it is true, Kenya has suffered heavily under corruption, and we need to face it head on and own to it that we need to do something on corruption, won the day. And that is how EACC found itself provided for in the Constitution, and its mandate spelled out in the Constitution. Because there before, we would do it in an act of parliament and we would amend it on the floor of the House. Any other time we would want to the institution to become weaker so that those of us who are in power at a given time are not fought in a given manner. But look at it the other way, before we even come to the Jubilee. We at times scream loudest when we think that the people fighting corruption are on their way to our houses or to our offices or to our doors. When I see Murade saying that we don't want a thief or we don't want to give this country to thieves after Uhuru, the question that you ask is that how would it be, you can almost guess the answer. If we have another set of persons in leadership and he finds himself caught by the radar, the corruption radar, like Manyora is saying there's no pamba. If he'll say it's because I was saying these things in the yesteryear. So you never know whether he is offering a defense in advance or what he is trying to do. But I want to continue encourage the DCI and the DPP to continue fighting corruption. I want to mention to say this to the president that what links him directly with the ordinary Mwananchi today is his resolve and his fight against corruption. Nobody should tell him that he's not achieving anything and he should not be discouraged.
Right, thank you.
This is a Rocky meeting that you are referring us to. The one I'm seeing at Gewa. Is it Gewa? Where I see Murade and...
Yeah, in Githunguri.
Yes, it's raw energy. You had Trump saying raw energy. You can not see any energy in the kind of things that we are being told. When you come and tell us to set up a commission to fight corruption, really? This time and age, you are taking us back to the 80s. We've moved, and I think we need to wake up and smell the coffee. We've moved. This country has moved.
Right.
As to what, let me, Debarl, let me just say this. One of the things that is scaring many people, and I'm sure this will get a heavy response here, is people from Mount Kenya seems to have decided that they will give the presidency to non-Kikuyu. Now, the problem with the non-Kikuyus is that they want to tell us who to give it to. They don't want to leave us with that mandate to decide who it is that we want to give it to. And they seem to get uncomfortable. Every time we engage we want to think about it and engage ourselves in that debate. But I want to encourage them that, you see, when I learned after Musalia and we voted and I voted for him, one of the reasons why people said I never voted for Musalia is because they never wanted to credit a Kikuyu with a mind that he can also identify another leader elsewhere outside the Kikuyu tribe. And now, this is where I find it very funny that you don't even want to be happy with us, that we have decided, that may come out later, that we will vote somewhere else. But where we vote, stop quarreling us. Stop getting worried. We will decide, and where we decide, this is again a democratic position. So don't tell us that the only time we can make correct decision is by voting this particular person. And again, we are also not a monolithic bloc.
Thank you.
You are likely to see people voting for different persons come 2022. And it should not worry you, it should make you happy. In any case, if what you've been saying is true,
thank you.
If you are not being hypocritical.
We'll circle back with Popogisio on the other side of the break. We need to take a short break. When we come back with you and Alice also to react to that particular comment. Collectively, I think, is this speaking for the entire region? As you say this, are you speaking for the entire region? That's also another question that we need to also to probe on the other side of the break as we look at Jubilee Party politics. And of course, we shall be probing as well the SGR compensation much later in the course of the program as well. Don't go away, much more coming up on the other side of the break. Welcome back. You're watching AM Live, and of course we continue with the breakfast show. I'm serving Anu Manyora. You like some strong tea, yeah?
Yes, strong tea.
Right, fantastic. That is Nduvia.
No, Nduvia is a milk without sugar.
Milk without sugar?
Yeah, milk tea without
so
sugar.
strong tea without sugar will be what?
Strong tea.
Eh?
Strong tea.
No, without sugar.
Yeah,
how will you call it? Strungi.
Nduvia strungi.
So you don't want some sugar on it?
No, it is okay.
That's okay. Okay, let me.
We have taken enough sugar in life.
You're still giving sugar to people.
Okay, we promise to circle back with Pogisio. Pogisio, of course, you can comment on that Jubilee Party, of course, politics, the pronouncement from Rathe as well.
And am I talking or
No,
I'm getting punished for coming in?
Yeah,
Of course, you'll be the last one today. You came in a bit late.
Well, I think the of course, speaking about a party, a political party that is in the ruling, is in the ruling party today, we should speak to the people who manage that party to tell us what's happening in the party. I can see beyond that. I can see people even asking the Secretary General to resign. This weekend has been very busy with, it's a divided party. It's a party that requires to deal with their own issues.
Yes.
We are, as KANU, we are part of that coalition, whatever the formation that is in government. And, but we are a different entity ourselves. I think that the calling there has been by Murathe, for example, that is correct. If Uhuru knew, very correct, if Uhuru knew that he's handing over to thieves, I mean, what would he do? Because the handing over in this country is a democratic process, where if the thief has been elected, you just have to hand over. There's no way you can refuse to hand over. It has not happened in this country that you can refuse to hand over. You can only speak to correct the issues of theft in this country. And the only way to correct the issues of theft and corruption in this country is if we focus on these people, these lawyers and the judges, the DCI, the prosecutors, and also ESCC. If they can all come to the realization that this country is meant to go this direction. Because who compromises whom? It's within this ecosystem here. The people who make our laws, our lawyers, also then go and they're the ones who make sure that the laws are not strong enough so that they can go on to defend. And you find that we have relied on our lawyers to make our laws, and at the same time to be our judges, at the same time to be our prosecutors, everything. And so these people have to decide. I think this consortium within the judges and the magistrate, the judges, magistrates, and our lawyers who represent all these crimes. Because, you know, Morgan here will speak about corruption, but if you arrest a corrupt man right now, he will take instructions to go and say so. This is our system. And it's a very good system, a legal system. But I'm just saying that unless we have really committed among those people, because what happens when people have gone through prosecution and then all of a sudden there is no conviction? Why? Why? I mean, is it because money has changed hands? Is it because of this? We worry a lot. Every time you see a case where even just common sense, you will see that this one has definitely got something to do, and then all of a sudden it dissipates.
Yeah.
It dissipates completely. So what is it that happens in our system? This ecosystem needs to be looked at very carefully. Are there people who are clean that we may appoint to be our judges? Are there people who are not corrupt? Is it that we are all corrupt from the time we appoint them as magistrates and promote them all the way? Or is from the time we make them a DCI or whatever it is? So where are we going to find people in this country then who can do this? So a commission of inquiry. Who are the people who are going to do it? If the legal system allows these things to go through, what's a commission? What's a commission compared to the constitutional bodies? The commission can be played. I mean, commission can also be defeated. The justice can be defeated. How many commissions have we done in this country? Let's look at the results of the commissions from the past. How many commissions have been done? In fact, the land commissions. I mean, the Ndongu about land. Where is it? All these commissions that we set up, where are they? The commission of inquiry would only tell you what you look like. Look yourself in the mirror and tell us. We know what we look like. Why don't we deal with who we are, and what we look like? Which is that we are susceptible to corruption. But how do we deal with all these matters instead of just creating more and more paying positions? Because commissions are just paying positions. We just pay more people to do the same work we could do. So we need to have a very good look at ourselves as a country and look at the future of this country together. I don't like the way that Kion is talking about his region and his people. say we decide whom we want to elect. I mean, all those things is not democratic. It's not even supposed to be talk. That now Pokot are going to make a decision as Pokot, you know, that the Kisis are going to make the decision. There's nowhere like that in this country. People have gone past that.
Have we?
I mean, we've gone past that. We don't think. I don't think you can. One person can meet today as they used to meet in Limuru and say we're going to vote this way.
But what is happening in Gusiland is the same mentality you're talking about.
Look,
you know, we as Gusi, we have our kingpins. So this is
look at what happens in Kisi. Yeah? The same Kisi. They will tell you that people who say no, we can't follow that. So it's not possible now in this day and age. It's not possible. Let me tell you, and we'll see. I mean, there are people who now claim that they can make a king. Okay, you're kingmakers. But today's age, look at the people who are voting for us, the young people. They don't know what you're talking about.
He's the same guy who's saying that Kalonzo is taking us back to the 80s. So his mentality also about that is in the 80s as well?
Exactly. That kind of talk is
now what is exactly?
Let's say formalis. No. Let's say formalis before we come to your Congo Morgan.
That decision is from the 80s.
Thank you, Debarl. And I forgot my specs as I came in, so I hope I can see the screen very well, properly. Let me start by saying that Kenya is not a monarchy. Kenya is a democracy. So when I look at this statement, Murathe saying Uhuru will not hand over power to a thief, I think Murathe should not even be speaking to Kenyans. He has a lot of baggage himself. You know, he actually is a bankrupt. I don't know when he lifted the...
I don't think we should allow
he
that.
He lifted the... No, this is factual. Yeah, it's in the records. And because the way he's speaking, actually, he comes out as a person who has a personal vendetta, and therefore he will find that he will be addressed himself, you know, like almost personally. But what I'm saying is that when this kind of statements come, he wants Kenyans to believe. Having been the vice chair, former vice chair, and as a member of Jubilee, I have the right to actually respond and say he wants Kenyans to believe that he is speaking or working for the president or for the presidency. And I think that cannot be far from the truth. When he was sent home, I think it was by surprise, and he's hurting from that. I remember recently from another TV station where I was, he sent a text asking why the party has not held a meeting, you know, since he left. And I responded that he was actually asked to resign. He was purely sacked. And when we continue entertaining these kind of people, then we must be on the wrong footing. Kenya will not carry out elections on basis of somebody's, like Pogisio has said, one person cannot determine how the electorate will actually vote. You can try to campaign for a candidate, but I do not imagine a situation where all of us will agree that this is the candidate. Majority may agree on a specific candidate, but it is also true, and you know, when we were here last Monday, I think most of these panelists here said that you know, there will be a problem because a whip will be clacked on Mount Kenya region, so that they can vote or toe the line, face Mount Kenya on a certain direction. Now I see Pogisio, actually, with due respect, has now moved from that direction because of the statements of Kioni. It is true, I don't think where we are headed now is possible that we shall field a candidate from that region. And there is nothing wrong in saying that. But it's also true that we are speaking among ourselves, and there is conversations all over, because I think it will be one of the biggest arena of political discourse in the next elections. And therefore, it is possible that, and we will agree on what way forward, majority of the people in that region. Right now, you know, you heard what happened over the weekend in Roiro, you know, and the question on hardship was actually rejected by a very big crowd in Roiro, meaning that they don't want greetings from the handshake. What is that telling you in that backyard? So, you know, I just think that there are signs, people like Murathe and the people he works for, who have hired him. And maybe this picture could be having some of those people. I don't know, or this was just a coincidence. It's not the first time that he's teaming up with some people who want us to think that he's speaking for the powers that be. You know, that statement is loaded. But he cannot be speaking for them. Going forward, we must allow Kenyans
to discuss, to have conversations, deep conversations, to question, and also actually be encouraged to grow democracy, even freedom of speaking, and saying yes or no. And you know, therefore, I am very clear in my mind that people like Murathe would be very shocked. You know, they're even talking about commission of inquiry. It's obvious that he has somebody in mind, and he has clearly said before he would not stop at nothing to stop DP. You know, he has a stop DP from going to State House movement. This is part of it. I can bet he will fail. Because, you know, even his own record, his own constituency, he lost elections badly. And the last time that he really was elected, he also is said to have sold the seat of Gatanga. But the commission of inquiry he's talking about, he has forgotten that the presidency.
Actually, that was Kalonzo talking about the commission of inquiry, the judicial
You know,
commission.
they were there together, you know. Kalonzo is my learned friend, senior. And he knows a commission of inquiry cannot, the office of the deputy president is an office in the presidency. And the presidency cannot be subjected to civil or criminal proceedings while it is subsisting. And therefore, maybe in future, we shall have a commission of inquiry regarding matters that may even touch to that office. And you know, you cannot separate the office of the deputy president and the office of the president. So what these kind of people are thinking is that they want to actually subject the presidency to commission of inquiry. Utterly nonsensical and unconstitutional proposals coming from a former vice president. Then the tirade of insults that have actually been directed to the office of the deputy president, for me, it's an unfortunate point in our country. And you see that is likely to bring the office of the president under disrepute. Because you know, how do you separate the two offices? Is there a strategy to force the deputy president to resign? I am not speaking for him. But when you look at what people are imagining, commission of inquiry, calling somebody a thief who is serving in the office of the president, eventually you are bringing the office of you are bringing the presidency to disrepute and being a symbol of unity in this country. We must stop that kind of agenda, because it serves nobody's interest in this country.
Thank you. Right,
On the criminal, there was a criminal issue in terms of this office of the DCI. I thought you wanted my comment also on that. Right. But quickly, I can say that I actually myself think the DCI and the DPP have done fairly in a very short time a good job. You know, dealing with corruption is both preventive and actual, you know, in terms of stopping completely preventive, but also punitive when you move forward to prosecution. So I don't think this is the time to discourage these two officers. I think it is time to encourage, probably take stock of what they have done, but also they must have learned, or they need to sit down, reflect on the achievements they have made, evaluate their errors or mistakes, and then work on that. And of course, and I think therefore, Kenyans should not expect, judicial processes is not an event of a day or 2-3 days. The way the law is, one must understand it takes time, and due diligence is important. And I think sometimes, and while I support them, they must be more cautious, avoid political misuse in whatever manner, so that they do their work without having to worry about who is seeing what they are doing or not. Because the law should guide them, purely the law. Because otherwise, they will practice impunity and they won't last a day if they do that.
Right, Hamana, I think we need to wind up on that. We move on to other topic, unless you have anything to say as we're winding up. Yeah, the summing.
I would just have wanted to say one or two things quickly. One is that I didn't say the new offices, DPP and DCI, are not doing something. That's not what I meant.
Yes.
I said we want to move to the next level, the level of conviction. Of course, there's no way you can compare Kinoti with his predecessor, Muhoro, whatever was his name. Muhoro. There's no way you can compare this chap who was there before and Haji. What was his name? There is no comparison. There are two different people. One is in the skies, another one is on the ground here, under the ground. So these guys are doing good. I know Kamata Friday,
which is
has scared people, which is good. Not many people now can really put their signature on a document before thinking twice. So I know all that, and we appreciate that. Only we are saying, let's move to the next level, which is the level of conviction. That's what I said. And of course, Alice has spoken well, but again, you know, if people want somebody, they will get him. And if people want to drag somebody to court, they can. I don't think the Constitution makes reference to the deputy president in terms of prosecution. They can be prosecuted. Only Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta now may not be prosecuted until he leaves office. Anybody else can face the dog. Am I right?
Yeah. Only the president has immunity right now.
That's right.
No, he doesn't have. Only Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
That's what I'm saying, the president. Yeah.
The Constitution stipulates the president. It doesn't say the presidency.
You remember, there was a clamor to get even the governors and the DP covered with that immunity.
Which is good to me.
It is only the president who has immunity.
Yeah.
Every other person can be taken to court.
Right. Okongo Mogini, briefly. Okongo, just a moment. No, Alice. Okongo Mogini.
That's the constitutional position.
Because
No,
actually,
let's Okongo.
they're
Alice.
challenging my point.
Yeah. You will get to time.
It's my
You'll
take
get to
now,
it's
Alice,
Let's hear from
We
Okongo
don't have to
Mogini.
come
It was just
back
a by
to
the
me.
way.
I just wanted to inform.
It's my take,
And it is
Alice.
important.
It was just a by the way.
The Constitution is very clear that if you are serving in an office where you can even act in the office of the president, you cannot be prosecuted.
Okay. Okongo Mogini.
Maybe when they're active.
But we have not started the
The record straight,
What is it we are
Debarl,
discussing?
the only office that enjoys immunity during his tenure in office is the president. If there is evidence that the DP has been involved in any corruption, I assure you can be arrested and charged in a court of law. That's the constitutional position prevailing today, unless we change the constitution. And I'm sure even Honorable Kioni will agree with me that
That's the position.
the constitutional position. Alice.
No,
Now,
I disagree.
there is a...
I disagree. We will
there is
look at the constitution
There-
later.
I think
But
there is an
later,
issue. There is
yes.
an issue that is putting us lawyers on the spot, which has been raised by my good friend Senator Pogisho, and they're saying that this country is in problems because lawyers are the ones who
Make the laws.
I mean, look at the Constitution. It is legislatures who make laws, the parliamentarians, not
Yet
lawyers.
another mistake in
I
the
mean, that's a big mistake, and it shouldn't go on record. If there is any mess in a law-making process, it should be to the doorsteps of the members of parliament,
Who wrote the
not
Constitution?
lawyers. Two, you know,
This
the
Constitution.
key positions
Politicians,
that are
not
You guys.
fighting corruption. The DCI, the person heading DCI, Kinoti is not a lawyer, to the best of my knowledge. Most of the investigators in that body are not lawyers. If you go to EACC, the chairman is called Webukala. He's not a lawyer. Out of 5 commissioners, 4 of them are non-lawyers at EACC. The person who was heading EACC before, Wako, and the current CEO are non-lawyers. The bulk of investigators at EACC are not lawyers. So I don't think we need to push blame to lawyers simply because they appear in court to test the evidence that is being presented by investigators. I think the call we need to make is that we need to have the DCI train his investigators properly. And Debarl, you have heard even the CJ say, unless you bring cases with watertight evidence, the courts cannot convict where there is no enough evidence to sustain a conviction. So the people who need to improve, let it be clear, is the investigators. Once we fix that, the court will not have any option other than to convict where the evidence is overwhelming.
Let me just say that I gave a consortium of people. I say lawyers, the lawyers who practice, judges, DCI, and also I said EACC. I just mean that even in Parliament, when we have anything to do with making laws, the first people we consult are the homogenists in the Parliament. I mean, we like to use them, and then at the same time, then they're the same people representing us also, on the other side, which is okay. I just say that for a country like ours, which has a rule of law, it's important. But we just need to look at that consortium together and say what has gone wrong with our systems. Why can we not get a watertight case, prosecute, and actually make a way? A way out of this, the thing that doesn't look to be going anywhere. That was not the most So he's just defensive of his profession so much. And of course, the talk about, you know, who is immune to whatever, I agree. I mean, this one is the president. In any case, nobody has mentioned actually the DP in all these things. I don't even know how his name came up. Murade even did not refer to the person. Neither did the Commission of Inquiry thing refer to any person. Commission of Inquiry is a tool that can be used. But nobody has mentioned anybody. Why do Kenyans conclude that it is the deputy president who was? I mean, I just think we should be able to say anyone can be the one who will not be handed over to. I mean, it's not. We are not saying this. But as I said, you know, our constitution is very clear. You will hand over to whoever has been elected. You have, as an outgoing president, you will not have a chance to debate that. So what do we do now with the issue of our prosecutions, which we are talking about, and our corruption index, which is getting worse? We have put in a lot of money, and the budget is very clear, a lot of money to fight corruption. If you look at this year's budget, there's an increase in terms of funding these organizations. So they just must act, you know, they must rise to the occasion. They must up their game. And I think that we should see a better result in prosecuting cases of corruption. The biggest thing that I see is a hurdle for us as Kenyans is we know each other very well. We know each other very well. We know actually who is corrupt. We know who is a thief. We know all these things. And then we just hide our heads in the sand. We know each other very well. If somebody came and told me that Mr. Kioni was corrupt, I wouldn't believe it because I know Kioni, okay, or Omogeni. And I'm not just using people on this panel. I'm just saying that people, we know who it is, but we just hide our heads in the sand.
All right. Lastly, let's hear from Jeremiah Kioni before we move on.
Yes, and you know they say that when you're in a grass house, you should not
Throw stones.
Throw stones, because if they are thrown back, it becomes very, very difficult. You know, I'm just looking at a photo here. It's on the Standard, and I see my neighbor here, the senator. He is being out-jumped by Gideon Moi. I never thought somebody can jump higher than you.
That is Sundays, yeah?
Gideon is jumping much higher.
Are you looking at the head or the feet?
That is Sundays, you may speak a lot.
I was looking at the head, you are still above. But what is more interesting is that you see, this was readers from Pokot, that it was actually another group of Pokot, just like we had the Kisses endorsing Matiang'i. Now we have Pokot consulting Gideon here. So when I say Mount Kenya, I don't get too worked up, because we are just borrowing leaves from what has been done by others. And I can tell you again for the 10th time, there is that decision that, because we have been accused for many times that we just want to vote one from among ourselves. If we identify a leader from another area, I can tell you that Mount Kenya people are going to fight. What we are being told are going to vote for him. What we are being encouraged by the president is, stop it. Let's develop the country. Let us make sure that his agenda is achieved. And it is the best thing that he would have said. And this is not the first time, Debarl. Even after 2013, you would say that this system which allows us to get into politics immediately after elections, we must really think about it. So he's really been consistent on the issue of finish elections, go do what you promise people, and then move on.
Thank you.
But Debarl, let me just say this. You know, you see the meeting that Mr. Bonamurade and the DP were. Again, the VP, not DP. They were in a church. And I think in this panel and elsewhere, we have had a lot of quarrels with people going to church and making donations in church. Again, if you're in a grass house, don't throw stones, because that low energy meeting was happening in a church in Kiambu, and they were fundraising. So when you condemn, I think objectivity is what we need to pay attention to. When you're talking about corruption, Debarl, there are very many people who have some dubious past, who seems to be running towards the DP. And it is not that, and every time corruption is mentioned, everybody will think that we are talking, people are talking about it, but the DP and politicians. This fight against corruption has hit businessmen more than the politicians. The convictions that are likely to come our way, you'll find them coming out of from the business community more than the politicians. What I'm trying to say is that unlike in the past, where we were always seeing politicians as being the most corrupt, being the most, now it has changed. This net is cast far and wide, and everybody is on board, so that we stop focusing on just the politicians. Even the issue of changing the currency. It's like you expect the politicians to be caught by the web, but you'll be surprised to know that not many politicians will be caught by that web.
Thank you.
Activities are happening outside the political aspect. You said too many thank yous. Can I?
Yeah, because now you need to be winding out.
I just wanted to say, now prepare for the final thank you here. As in Jubilee, I think our minds are clear. We have a party. We will talk with inside the party. We will quarrel, but we have a party to protect, and we'll you see for the Jubilee 2022 being stronger. So don't wish us death. For those of Kanu, Baba, and Mama,
we'll still be here.
We are still going to be around for a little bit longer.
Thank you.
And perhaps you desire. And we will determine how things happen in this country for a while, not the 100 years of Kanu.
We wish them well. Kanu is almost done.
All right, thank you. Now, the construction of the standard gauge railway has been steeped in deep controversy right from the beginning. Now, the extension of a line from Nairobi to Naivasha has started a fresh row, specifically over land compensation. In the latest case, there is a massive scandal about land valuation, amounts of money for compensation, and speed of disbursement. Investigations reveal how wheeler dealers have shamelessly inflated the cost of land, exaggerating the prices to fleece the government, but underpaying the landowners, most of whom are less knowledgeable and exposed. This is a major ripoff. The government is losing a tidy sum of cash, and landowners are absurdly losing properties. Some of the culprits have been arraigned in court to face criminal charges, but we are concerned about the principle. Isn't it incredible that ours is a society where those entrusted with public projects cannot do the right thing? Thieving is the order of the day. We urgently need an end to this. Since inception of phase 1 of the SGR project from Mombasa to Nairobi, which was completed in 2017, the concern has been the astronomical cost involved. That artery consumed some 327 billion shillings, arguably the highest cost registered in rolling out a project of that magnitude. To be sure, the Nairobi-Naivasha line is estimated to cost 150 billion shillings. The investments are massive. It is not lost that the government miserably failed to secure additional funding to extend the rail line beyond Naivasha to Kisumu and ultimately Busia to connect into Uganda as earlier envisaged, due to several apprehensions on the project. Although not openly expressed, the concern that the costs were too high and that Kenya may not be able to repay the loans given its debt pile-up was underpinned by the fact that even in the execution, the country could not be trusted to do the honest thing. The National Lands Commission, a creation of the current constitution, was envisioned as an independent and professional organization that would create order in the land management system. The outfit was intended to present a departure from the past bad practices at the Lands Ministry. However, the way it has handled the land compensation all along has shattered all the hopes. Its operations are increasingly getting dodgy and messy. The Director of Criminal Investigation must extend the scope of inquiry to establish the full extent of cheating involved in land compensation. Genuine landowners must be paid appropriately and promptly. And also look at what is on the front page of the Daily Nation today when we're talking about the SGR. This is what is a splash today. 3 billion shillings bill for no work on SGR line. Land compensation was that stalled completion of the standard gauge railways in Nairobi-Naivasha stretch could have cost the taxpayer 21 million shillings a day in payment for idle workers and machines. And this story is tucked away on page 4 of the Daily Nation today. Just recently, of course, we've had those pictures of how also the government has been raising down some of the buildings in Korowi, and some of them they are actually not notified, caught by surprise, not even given time to salvage some of their properties, or some of, yes, of course, their properties from their houses as well. And this truly shows how Kenyans are treated in this country as well. I don't know, we can just pick up with you, Harmon Manyora. When we're talking about SGR and, you know,
when you mention
some of his lootings that we've been, of course, we've been on this program.
SGR, yes. You are mentioning a fraud. We have said this repeatedly. SGR was a fraud from the word fraud. It is a top-range fraud. You know, like any other project in this country, we never, as a people, come up with projects because they want to benefit the people. The projects are designed, you dream of a project, you design it in order to line your pockets, which is really bad for this country. You see, I have argued repeatedly that if you had the money that is being spent on SGR, which is moving close to move to $1 trillion, would you put it on that rail, or would you use it to transform some parts of this country? The money that has been sent on SGR, I've said repeatedly, if you gave it what you used to call the Northern Frontier District,
yes,
Wajir, you know, Mandera, Moyale, those areas, Marsabit, Garissa, you can flood that place with water. You can transform that economy, and that can contribute significantly to the growth of this country. So it is always that people want to make money. You have a road, you have an SGR, and now you want to do another road from Mombasa to Nairobi at the cost of about 450 billion. So look, SGR is a fraud. Let's talk about the compensation. I strongly believe, and I think this country must move to executions. We must subject the people to firing squads, even if it is in the 21st century. Because look here, the person who is claiming 50 million, for example, at Nkoroi, he bought this land perhaps 3 years ago.
Yes.
What did he pay? What was the valuation for him to pay the stamp duty? That land was valued, the land itself, perhaps at, say, 2 million. Today, a year or so later, somebody is valuing the same land maybe at 40 million. Is what I'm talking about. The person who did this valuation, together with the person who is now valuing the land, they should be executed, firing squad. Because they are taking Kenyans for fools. Look here. And if somebody is buying land just next, how much is he paying government in stamp duty? What valuation has the people in lands given so that this guy may pay government its dues in terms of stamp duty, whatever it's called? If government is being given 10,000 shillings in stamp duty, meaning if you calculate, maybe that land is worth 1 million shillings or 2 million. Why are we paying somebody else 40 million for that land? These are the kind of people I'm saying, unless we subject them to firing squad, this country will not move forward. Because people are taking this country for a joke. You look at EACC building. It is 400 million.
The Integrity Center.
The Integrity Center.
Yes.
Tomorrow, it is 1.5 billion. And that's why I do not believe in these people in EACC, including my good friend, the CEO now. I will not listen to him do any other job before he solves that riddle of EACC, of Integrity Center. We should stop taking Kenyans for fools. The people who come up with this kind of compensation, surely, there are many ways, even when we demolish buildings, there's somebody who put a signature on that document. The guy is enjoying somewhere in Mombasa. You see what I'm talking about? And somebody's building is being demolished. Why are we not getting the man who gave the documentation, who signed the documents, giving the bar the right to possess this land, and now it's being demolished? Maybe you're a third generation buyer. Is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
This country must be serious. The kind of jokes people are making with us that involves billions of shillings when Kenyans are dying from hunger, when Kenyans' children cannot access education. I think we cannot allow this demand, honestly. So, and it's a very simple, straightforward case. We can know how much that place costs by way of valuation from lands. We don't even need somebody to go and do valuation. What is the average cost of land in that area? What has been the consistent valuation given by experts from the Ministry of Land? Why are we giving somebody an opportunity to go and decide how much somebody should be compensated? So that person should face a firing squad.
Right. In the country where also we are touting the government with their effort to try and put up houses, for common mwananchi through the housing living fund that has been there. or is actually a ticklish issue right now as far as the levy is concerned. And then we go full steam ahead and demolish. First of all, do you think they dealt a fair hand in terms of the way they handled this particular demolition in Koroi? And the compensation bit of it, the information that was given even beforehand. Some of them were caught unawares, truly. Okongo Mogeni.
Yeah, Debarl, I think first I want to agree with Manyora that there's a big problem with the way we handle land compensation issues in this country. If you compare what the Tanzanians are paying for land, you'll think that we are a joke. And I think people have turned the issue of government project to be an opportunity to speculate on land, where you buy land at a throwaway price and then you make a kill. I'm so disappointed with this National Land Commission because the idea was to, you know, create a body that is professional, that will be devoid of the normal corruption scandals around government ministries. But I think they have performed worse. Maybe it could have even been better to retain the ministry as the one handling compensation. And I want to tell you, Debarl, if we don't fix this problem, it will become impossible to do any government project in this country. If you pay those kind of sums of money, it will be impossible to do a project that can have a return on investment within a period of 10 years. Because you cannot, you know, somebody in Koroi buys land at 250, you compensate them at 50 million. What are you telling Kenyans, really? That's a big joke. And I don't know, like if you buy a building like Integrity Center at 400 million, and then you sell it at 1.5 billion within a period of 4 years, what message are you passing across? I don't think we can have appreciation of land at that percentage. It's obnoxious. Now, in terms of compensation, I think if the government has valued your land and you have agreed on the price that you should be paid and you receive the money, you need to move out to enable the government to undertake that project. So for the cases in Koroi, if the owners have had their land valued, a price fixed, and their check released, then the government has a right to demolish those structures. But if on the other hand, you have not compensated the owner of that land, it is inhuman, it is barbaric to demolish somebody's structure before you pay them. I think the right procedure should be do the evaluation, agree on the price, pay off the person, and then give them notice for them to move out. But in this country, things that should be very clear, they look like we are trying to bring down a skyscraper somewhere. Because if somebody has been paid, move out. Because you agreed that you are giving out that land to the government. They have paid you. Why are you still staying there saying you want notice? I don't think once you receive your money, you need any notice. Get your check, move out. But I think the big debate that we should have this morning, Debarl, is how we deal with these cartels in land. And I think somebody somewhere in National Land Commission has made this an industry. That's where the big corruption scandals are happening. And I want to urge EACC and DCI to fix these cartels, break the chain. If we don't even need to undertake any government project. It will be a waste of public resources.
Let's hear from Pogiso.
Let me just support what my colleagues have said here, because you know, we've said on this platform that corruption begins at planning and also at budgeting and so on. And people plan to defraud government. And a lot of the things we're talking about, the monies we use for corruption, for bribing and so on, come out of these projects because it's planned from the very beginning. And I think we just need to say that for next big projects, let's value what we've done in the past and say, how come our SGR is the most expensive, probably the most expensive per unit, per kilometer or whatever unit it is, compared to the ones that our neighbors are going to do or are doing. So we have this thing which has been exaggerated. I mean, and everybody claims money on land before even the project has started. And so we condemn the demolition, but must also check if within that demolition you have already been paid. I mean, you've already agreed on terms and you've been paid. If not, I agree that demolishing some of these homes takes a while to build, very expensive homes. Some of them are, the people who build them are innocent. They don't know what may have transpired in the past. But I just want to agree that I think Kenya will move forward. And now that we are having a Big Four agenda, the agenda of the Big Four, that involves a lot of money. And if we must now start properly cleaning up the Land Commission, clean it up so that you have people there who just give people what's for value. Because I think the people who were there in the past really played the country. And they were used as conduits. They messed up our place. So we think that a new commission which is coming up should really be different from the one that left. Hopefully, a commission that will give Kenya value for money. And that's what we are waiting to see.
Thank you. German Cuny.
Debarl, one of the reasons why, and I think our senior Omgen has alluded to this, why the National Land Commission was formed and again provided for in the Constitution and protected by the Constitution was from the background of where we were coming from. As a country, we had already taken a position that politicians are the biggest thieves of land.
Biggest problem. Yeah.
They are the problem to our land issues. That informed the need to ensure that the National Land Commission is only manned and managed by professionals from the land professions or with degrees relevant to that profession. And it's actually again is that background that we ended up with Professor Swasuli. Professor Swasuli is not just a professor; he's a professor on land matters. You know, he is among the most learned when it comes to issues of land and how land can be managed professionally, so that it's available for us and the generations to come. But without doubt, this is one of the commissions that has really let us down, embarrassed us as a country. And we just went to show that any Kenyan, when given this kind of opportunity, could easily use it for the wrong reason. But I think even as we may want to compare ourselves with Tanzania and the rest, it is always important to know that the land value in this country and other country, it will always vary. So when you compare this, the cost on a unit of SGR in this country, in Ethiopia, in Tanzania, you're likely to find that where land is key, and in Kenya, land is a major factor of economic development, unlike in the other countries, where we even have socialism and jamaa, naitwa ujamaa na maneno kama hayo. Land in this country is expensive, and it is expensive comparatively in this region and even in when you compare it to some other developed countries. So that aspect alone may drive the cost of SGR high. But that does not mean that all is well. The theft that took place when land was being acquired for the SGR cannot go unpunished. But last week in Parliament, we passed the Land Value Index Act. This act is trying to answer to the difficulties that we have seen with the compulsory acquisition, where the government and the county government, the national government, the county government will be expected to develop an index or a rate which may define the value of land from one area to the other, so that we no longer leave it, even if the valuers will come and give a valuation report, it is no longer at the whims of individuals at what should they return to be the value of any 1 acre of land at a given area. Mm-hmm. We now are going to be coming from a point of information. We know generally Kiambu, the land will be at this much. Muranga, the land will be at this much. When you're going to Naivasha, Kisii, Maramba, when you're doing, we know the value of land without even having called the valuer. Mm-hmm. You can actually be able to tell this is the kind of values that you are likely to come across. They will vary because of perhaps some factors here and there. But that will help us deal with these unnecessary compensations, where officers in office will just wake up and decide we are compensating X 20 million shillings for 1 acre, while the other person you compensate at 10 million shillings. So there is movement in that direction, but I think we need to make sure that, again, the individuals who sat and cost Kenyans the loss of this kind of money needs to be punished. And not just the people, like we said the other day, not just the ones we are seeing in court, even the decision makers, those who made the decisions that costed us this kind of loss, they also need to be held to book. And that's where Chapter 6 of the Constitution comes into play. Any individual who held an office that, and you see, it is provided that if you are holding up an office and you're not bringing honor or dignity to that office, you have already violated the Constitution. You may not end up in a criminal court. Nobody may end up charging you with a crime. And I think that's where we need to take the fight against corruption. That's the high ground that we have been given by the Constitution. That you don't need to have committed a crime, but if the fact that you cost some, if you didn't hold the office that you are holding with the necessary required dignity in the eyes of Kenyans, then you should, even if we are not taking you to court, we should let you go. That is what we have not done. And if we allowed that to happen, quite a number of the CSs. Let me ask this. Where is the Minister for Lands? When this theft was going on, where is the minister who was in charge of lands?
Yeah.
He should have raised the flag and said something is wrong. And the fact that it happened within the offices that were below him doesn't mean that we cannot allow him to continue. You know, that docket has caused us a problem, and he was the one in charge of that docket. He should give way. Even when you're talking about the dams, we don't even need to fight the CS guilty of having taken some money home.
Thank you.
The fact that as a country we lost all those billions under his docket, it's enough to just tell him kwaheri ya kuonana na Mungu akubariki.
Thank you. Alice.
Thank you, Debarl. I think to some extent I will agree with my colleagues here regarding the losses that we are seeing around. In particular, that here we are being told that 3 billion shillings is likely to be paid out to the contractors that have been stopped from taking over the sites, the land for purposes of building the SGR. Of course, that's one angle of the magnitude of the problem. The other one is, of course, the cost of the SGR itself. Again, that needs to be interrogated seriously by Parliament, by even the EACC and the audit, and even the auditor, although the auditor is supposed to come after. I think we also now need to look at the office of the auditor in terms of of how then, because that office may not be serving any useful purpose if you just come after the event. But the question is, when you are now even looking at 21 million shillings a day to be paid out, a day to be paid out to the owners of those pieces of land, the homes, not structures. I think they are people's homes. Then that's another tragedy. How was this organized so that the payment, because the payment must come in time by the agreements that they made, so that they are given time, you pay today and then maybe you have a period within which you must vacate, and that if you have received payment today, you are supposed to vacate maybe in 3, 4, 6 months time. Your house can be demolished if it's demonstrated that you have actually then received and you don't want to move. But for the Kenya Railways to come and demolish, because there are cases that payment has not been done, because there was a flag by the money was flagged out as corruption by EACC was already on site in respect of these matters, and therefore no more payment was supposed to be released. You see, then also the EACC must understand that you can't just now move quickly, stop the payments, and then on the other hand, because you'll be suffering loss, the Kenya Railways now comes and demolishes the houses. What value also are we giving to the people of Kenya? I think maybe the SGR, and then how come the compensation is ranging now into 3 billion? What are the costings? How are these contracts? Kenyans have complained about actually the rip-off, because I think this is a rip-off, and as a government here we have failed the way we have managed this. And it's not just the Ministry of Lands, actually the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, the Kenya Railways, even if it's independent, it's also under the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. And this is pure, somebody here should resign here. Some people here should, including the CEO, National Land Commission. They have stolen from Kenyans, and there is a cartel where they offer more money for land so that they go back and receive money. Behind the scenes, this money does not belong. That's where we should interrogate. It does not belong purely to the people they are compensating. You know, and some of them actually have been beneficiaries of land. You know, they know where the SGR, you know, they have the plan, you know, where the route is passing. The people rush there and buy land, and then so that they determine how much it will cost. Because there's no land in Kenya that costs this.
That's much, yeah.
We have a government varua. And the government varua, even before the law that we are making, the government varua has, you know, has guidelines on how to come up with pricing. And so therefore the government varua is an accomplice. I think the National Land Commission is the biggest letdown. And you know, this commission, some of them now, I think Parliament, these are the areas we should be recommending for amendment of our constitution. Because the reason we came up with the commissions was to have like a fourth arm of government that will now then come to check the departments of government which were said to be corrupt and actually abusing power and doing bad things. Now, how would you explain these particular issues?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 seconds as we're winding up. Haman Manyora.
What makes me mad, Debarl, is that
10 seconds.
These people who have abetted this have benefited financially. They have made hundreds of millions. Let me tell you, Debarl, if you want these people, you'll get them. If I give you 2 billion today, Debarl, and you try to hide it, you cannot. If I give even 200 million now, you just try to hide it, you will see how difficult it is. And therefore, these people tunaweza kuwashika kama kuku tu na kuwachinja.
Thank you.
It's not easy to identify them because they have received bribes and they cannot hide that money. They have bought some stupid properties here and there. They have put moved money in bank accounts. We just arrest them like chicken and we slaughter them.
Thank you. Okongo Mogini, 10 seconds as we're winding up.
Yeah,
Debarl, my
That's
closing
very
remarks
serious.
is to just pass my message of condolences to the families of people I had who have just died this morning in a road accident that took place in Nyamira in Kerok. So my sincere condolences to the families of the bereaved.
Thank you. Right. 10 seconds, Pogisio.
Debarl, just to appreciate that we are getting stronger every day with this country looking to the Big Four, and I want to say we need to support the unity that the president is bringing in this country so we can actually have a stronger economy. Let's leave politics. I've said this over the weekend. I say that again. Let's just move on with work. Early politics is not good for this country.
Thank you. Right, Jamara Kioni, 10 seconds.
That I agree with Pogiso. Early politics are not useful. We should also not insult the president. But look at that. We didn't discuss it, but radical reforms begin at the university. They are doing away with how many courses? 40 courses at Nairobi University. I think there is a mess also at the university's education.
Topic
and
for
we
another
need
day.
to help our young people so that they don't end up with degrees and cannot do anything for them.
Right, Alice Ome, 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think I would want to commend the president for his visit to Eldoret and the manner in which the whole visit and the project was handled in terms of commissioning. I think even my colleagues, the members of parliament, were in their best shape on that particular day, and I hope that can be encouraged elsewhere.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And I've just read 1 or 2 tweets running up. Samuel Oruto says, we have the best structures to fight corruption, but officers do not fight corruption, but people do so. What we lack in this war is people to fight the war. The occupants in EACC, DCI, and political officers speak words without action. We need action. And also Dr. Jen Omwenga, she says, Hajed Kinodi are just entertaining Kenyans with wonderful Kenyan Hoods movies. Yeah, fighting corruption cannot be just arresting people on Friday and releasing them on Monday at 10 a.m. Say no to corruption. This is what she's saying here. And those are some of your tweets amidst many. Thank you. Because of time, we cannot really go through them, but I really appreciate also your valued company this morning and also a cogent discussion from our panelists as well. Thank you for watching. This is a point here on AM Live. Living with Us is up next.